Good day everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Broken Controller Club. I am the one and only host, Ed, asking you to hit that like and subscribe button as hard as you can, like you just found out your bottle of chocolate syrup was just spilled all over your new couch, and that stuff's not going to wash out. Everybody is going to think you're a chocolate mess after this, and rightfully so. Like most people, I have a love for the underdog. The gems that maybe weren't the best out there, but darn it, they gave it their all and deserve some sort of recognition for it. Today's gem, in my opinion, that I'm going to recognize is Lollipop Chainsaw on the PlayStation 3. The game actually sold over 1 million copies worldwide despite being released in June of 2012, which looking back, because I'm a big old dork, was a pretty quiet month for releases as the biggest titles it was up against were LEGO Batman 2, Pikmin 2, and some titles for the recently released PlayStation Vita, and a few movie-to-game releases like Madagascar and Amazing Spider-Man. Now, before we go further, I do want to point out that this game's got some graphic violence and adult language in it as well, and if you got a little one watching, maybe watch the video yourself first before deciding if it's okay for them to see it. Lollipop Chainsaw's themes and sense of humor take me back to classic shows I watched in the early 90s like Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs and USA Up All Night with Gilbert Gottfried and Rhonda Shear. These were shows that featured B and C tier movie schlock that didn't really take itself very seriously and was a lot better for it. Mainly because if it did take itself seriously, it would have been pretty terrible. So a quick synopsis of the game. You play as Juliet, a cheerleader from San Remo High whose family is trained in, wait for it, zombie hunting. All hell breaks loose and zombies called the Dark Purveyors are running rampant in our world, and as you can guess, Juliet, her siblings, and her dad are the only ones who can stop it. Her mom is somehow not part of this and is oblivious to the whole thing. Her boyfriend Nick tags along on the adventure as a sidekick, gets bitten by a zombie very early on, and spends the rest of the game as a severed head. Nick's voiced by Michael Rosenbaum, who you probably know as Lex Luthor from Smallville, and probably from a ton of other roles on TV and in movies. Seriously, the guy works all the time. If you have any appreciation for this actor, then I can promise you that his voice acting alone makes this game worth a purchase, as many of the lines he delivers are laugh-out-loud hilarious. The whole story reminds me of a more raunchy Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You have what you think is the unsuspecting cheerleader and the ragtag team who fights the undead, makes sassy one-liners, and saves the world. She even has a sensei who taught her everything he knows. Though he's Japanese, not English this time around. It's definitely an adult game between the graphic violence, vulgar language, and content as well, and it's worn as a badge of honor. In story mode, you basically just go level by level, murder zombies by the truckload, and advance the story. There's a few power-ups you get throughout the game that break up what would otherwise be a little boring after a while in the way of a dash attack and a gun attachment that lets you shoot zombies at range. These are used mostly during some racing sections and, yes, a zombie baseball section, respectively. The boss fights are unique enough in theme, and while they do have some surprises to try and be a little bit more interesting, they're mostly just your usual cycle of gimmicky fights where you're finding their opening to exploit their weakness until they're dead. The art style is your typical PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era 3D graphics, but with all the characters having dark outlines around them to give it almost a comic book feel to it. The action and humor is both irreverent and vulgar, as I mentioned. The game was developed by Grasshopper and Suda51, who always develop games in this signature style. As a side note, it was also written by James Gunn, who you might have heard from a couple of low-budget, no-name movies that have released in the last few years. So while the game is fun and there's a lot of content to unlock in the way of upgrades and costumes, it's got enough to play through in a weekend to see most of what there is. To me, that's the fun of it. As I get older and take on more responsibilities, having something like this to tear into, pardon the pun, that doesn't take itself seriously and give me some laughs along the way is a perfect way to game and reminds me that I don't need a 100-hour-long world to explore to enjoy myself. There's no DLC or some ad placement to upgrade to the Super Ultimate Elite Edition because they only shipped the game half done and wanted you to pay another $40 for the rest of it. Not that we've ever seen that before. So that's the long and short of it. This wasn't so much a review as just a video of a game you might have overlooked while buying something else, and a suggestion to buy it if you've still got a PS3 or Xbox 360 still sitting around and want to build up your library. This is Ed with the Broken Controller Club, signing off for now. Do you like what you see? Or did you lose a bet and have to subscribe to your most hated channel on YouTube? Do you feel sorry for me? Be sure to ding that sexy subscribe button before changing channels, as I have no shame, will take whatever I can get. Thanks again for watching.